Alright, everyone, welcome to another edition of American League East Recap. On the show today, we will talk about the 5 teams in the American League East and where they stand as spring training gets underway. Pitchers and catchers have reported full squad workouts are just days away now, and we're only about a little over a week away from spring training games taking place in the Grapefruit League in Florida, which is where the 5 American League East teams are holding their spring trainings. And let's begin with the Baltimore Orioles. Let's start right away with the Orioles, who had a very successful season last year. Granted, they didn't go far in the playoffs. They still have not won a game in the postseason over the last 2 campaigns, but there was still a lot for the Orioles to be excited about, a lot for them to be proud of, and they have a lot of young, talented players who should be taking the next step in the years to come. So the big question for the Orioles this winter was whether they were going to spend money. Was ownership going to open up the wallet? In fact, they did. And for the first full off-season of owner David Rubenstein and his front office group, the Orioles hiked payroll to levels not seen since before the latest roster rebuild. You know, the one where they lost 100-plus games for multiple years in a row and drafted players like Adley Rutschman, Holiday, Westberg, all these guys. The guys you're seeing on the young, talented core of the Orioles right now. So the Orioles, their first big splash in free agency was signing Charlie Morton. They needed to replace Corbin Burnes, who left in free agency. He went to the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Orioles, again, were willing to spend a lot of money to retain Burnes, who pitched very well in a Baltimore uniform last season. But ultimately, it seemed Burnes preferred the comforts of home as he and his family live in Arizona, and the Diamondbacks were willing to offer him a 6-year, $210 million deal. The Orioles countered by signing 41-year-old pitcher Charlie Morton. Morton should give them veteran, steady, reliable experience in the middle to back end of the Baltimore rotation. The real swing, the real upside gamble that the Orioles took this winter on the other end was signing Japanese pitcher Tomoyuki Sugano. He has pitched in the NPB, the Japanese Professional Baseball League, for the past 12 years. And Sugano and Morton will now join a rotation comprised of Grayson Rodriguez, Zach Eflin, and Dean Kramer. On the offensive side, the Orioles nabbed Tyler O'Neill, who will be charged with hitting home runs out of a ballpark that is actually smaller than it was last year. The Orioles further brought in the fences in left field. O'Neill hit 31 home runs last season, and he should help offset the loss of Anthony Santander's 44 home runs. Santander signed with the division rival Toronto Blue Jays, who desperately needed a big bat. We'll get to that in a couple of minutes. For O'Neill, the key for him is to stay healthy. He needs to continue to bash left-handed pitching and cut down on his strikeouts. He had a 33.6% strikeout rate last season. That was pretty close to a career high. The Orioles made various tweaks around the edges of their roster. They brought in Gary Sanchez. He'll be Adley Rutschman's backup. Sanchez has been disappointing since we remember him on the New York Yankees all those years ago, setting those rookie records for home runs. But he'll be fine as a backup catcher. Reliever Andrew Kittredge was added to the bullpen. That will welcome back Felix Bautista. That will be a big shot in the arm for the Orioles. And Dylan Carlson and Ramon Laureano were added to further improve the depth on the position player side. So, bottom line, the Orioles, in my opinion, are still sitting in a catbird seat. They have a roster filled with talented young players who really aren't making a lot of money. Having said that, the Orioles will feel the departure of Corbin Burnes and Anthony Santander. The question is, are the additions to this roster going to be helpful enough and close the gap on the New York Yankees enough? Plus, with the Red Sox recently adding Alex Bregman, again we'll get to that, the Orioles now have a team to fend off coming and chasing after them, and that will be the Red Sox. So it'll be interesting to see how well they can kind of fend off the Boston Red Sox. And here we go. We're going to go to the Boston Red Sox as our next team. This offseason, the Red Sox, once again, talked about how committed they were to improving a team that missed the postseason for the third straight year. This coming exactly one winter after they promised full throttle, and that was going to be their approach to the offseason. The Red Sox will be a lot better because of 2 big additions they made to the starting rotation and a very late signing that will very much improve the right-handed aspect of their lineup. We'll start with the pitching additions. They traded 4 prospects, including catcher Kyle Teal, to the Chicago White Sox for starting pitcher Garrett Crochet. Crochet is the difference maker that will immediately slot into the top of the Boston rotation, and he will serve alongside holdovers Tanner Houck, Brian Bayo, and Cutter Crawford. It will be interesting to see how Crochet manages a full workload in 2025, but he pitched 146 innings and 3.58 ERA ball in 2024 and should immediately help. Boston added to their pitching reinforcements when they signed Walker Buehler to a one-year, $21 million contract. Buehler is fresh off a World Series win with the Dodgers and was very good during the postseason. Buehler is great as long as he's healthy, and he will be motivated to post a strong season after suffering an injury-marred campaign but turning it on come the postseason. Further depth was added with lefty Patrick Sandoval, who will return after he completes his Tommy John surgery, and in the bullpen, they further stabilized it with Aroldis Chapman and Justin Wilson, hoping to offset the loss of closer Kenley Jansen. Now comes the best part. While the Red Sox scored the ninth most runs in baseball last season, they were in dire need of a right-handed bat. They were connected to players like Alex Bregman and Nolan Arenado, but all winter long they didn't make a move for either of them. Well, just a couple of days, not even a day, after spring training opened, the Red Sox signed Alex Bregman to a 3-year, $120 million contract, with deferrals that would bring down the net present value, but Bregman is an enormous addition to their lineup. Bregman, who had a down season last year, still is a career .272 hitter and will definitely help improve the left-handed lean of the Boston lineup. The Red Sox will be a lot better than their .500 finish last season. Jarren Duran is blossoming into a star, Willie Abreu finished 6th in the AL Rookie of the Year voting, and won a Gold Glove in right field, and Rafael Devers at third base is the most underrated slugger in baseball. If first baseman Tristan Casas and Trevor Story can simply stay healthy, Boston could sport one of the best offenses in baseball. And now they have the pitching to complement that. This is an extremely dangerous team, and as I mentioned before, I believe they can definitely give the Orioles a run for their money. Now to the New York Yankees, who made it to the Fall Classic last year but lost to the Los Angeles Dodgers, and then they lost slugger Juan Soto to the New York Mets. You still have to give the Yankees a lot of credit, however, for pivoting and improving the team in a number of areas. Starting pitcher Max Fried was brought in to further stabilize a staff that already includes Garrett Cole, Carlos Rodon, Luis Gil, who was the AL Rookie of the Year last year, Clark Schmidt, and now Marcus Stroman. Fried has had recent injuries, but he still posted a strong 3.25 ERA in a little over 174 innings for Atlanta last season. Fried's addition in the rotation pushes everyone down a spot, and now it seems to make Marcus Stroman trade bait. Time will tell if the Yankees can trade Marcus Stroman and find a taker for his apparently $18 million contract, but the Yankees are going to try their best. In any event, it's a very strong rotation. The biggest splash, however, came in the bullpen, as general manager Brian Cashman traded Nestor Cortez and infielder Caleb Durbin to the Milwaukee Brewers in exchange for closer Devin Williams. Devin Williams has posted absolutely elite production since 2022 and will be a terrifying pitcher to face in the ninth inning. On the lineup side, the Yankees knew they couldn't find one player to replace Soto's production, so instead they made a series of moves to hopefully replace him in the aggregate. They swung a trade with the Chicago Cubs for Cody Bellinger, in the hopes of adding more defense and power, while Paul Goldschmidt will look to top Anthony Rizzo's production at first base. Goldschmidt isn't the player he once was, everyone understands that, but the Yankees are confident that the player who hit .245 with 22 home runs in 2024 has turned the corner and can give them more serviceable production. The Yankees are a very talented team. Aaron Judge is in right field, Jason Dominguez will be given a shot to win the left field job, and Jazz Chisholm will shift around to second base, with Gleyber Torres now in free agency. The Yankees are a very deep team and should absolutely be getting ready to play in October. Then there's the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays have been through quite the winter. It started when Hurricane Milton ripped off the roof at Tropicana Field, and the Tropicana Field was deemed unplayable for the 2025 season. Plus, the Tampa Bay Rays have had struggles nailing down the money, whether that be public or private, to build a long-term stadium in the Tampa Bay area. The club's future currently is very uncertain beyond 2025. However, in 2025, they will be playing their home games at George M. Steinbrenner Field, the spring training home of the New York Yankees. On the baseball end of things, the club has an extremely talented group of starting pitching. So, they have a surplus, and they traded from that surplus very early in the offseason, when they traded Jeffrey Springs to the Athletics, in exchange for a couple of, let's call them lottery ticket prospects. They expect possibly Joe Boyle can help them out this year, but a lot of the players may not impact the Major League roster for a couple seasons. Doesn't matter for the Rays. They still have a surplus of starting pitching, and that pitching typically outperforms their expectations. Having said all that, the real focus for the Tampa Bay Rays this winter needed to be on improving an offense that finished at the bottom of Major League Baseball in most offensive categories. Eloy Jimenez was brought in on a minor league deal, and the Rays hope to turn back the clock with Jimenez, turn him back to his 2023 form, in which he was capturing baseball fans all around the country. Elsewhere, former Toronto Blue Jays catcher Danny Jansen was brought in on a one-year deal. He will hopefully stabilize a Tampa Bay catching unit that was terrible last season. The biggest move of the winter, though, similar to the way the Red Sox signed Alex Bregman just when spring training opened up, is the Tampa Bay Rays signing Ha-Seong Kim to a 2-year, $29 million deal. Kim seemed like a player not even a year ago who was destined to land a long-term contract. But an ill-timed shoulder injury in 2024 cost him that opportunity. Kim is a defensive first player. He does have a little bit of pop in his lineup, and really has stolen a lot of bases in the last 3 seasons. Let's see when Kim gets back to full health. He has a very disciplined plate approach, however, not a lot of strikeouts, and maybe can run into a couple. So we'll see. The Tampa Bay Rays will definitely enjoy the presence of Ha-Seong Kim until he either opts out or their star prospect, Carson Williams, he can maybe steal the job from from Ha-Seong Kim. We'll see. But the Rays definitely are going to be in for a lot of uncertainty going forward, and they will be challenged to repeat their goodness and what they've been able to do, which is really post the third highest number of wins in Major League Baseball since 2008. We'll see if they can continue to kind of duplicate that magic. And then finally, we're at the Toronto Blue Jays, who finished in the basement of the American League East last season, and for the first part of the winter, it was all about the players who they didn't sign. Juan Soto, Corbin Burns, Max Fried, Roki Sasaki, go down the line. The Toronto Blue Jays, however, once the new year began, that's when they started to get more into action. They signed Jeff Hoffman to help stabilize a bullpen that finished with the second worst ERA in Major League Baseball last season. They reunited with Jimmy Garcia to add further heft to the back of the bullpen, and then they made their big offensive addition, that being Anthony Santander, and he of the 44 home runs. This was a bat that the Toronto Blue Jays desperately needed, and Santander should absolutely fill one of the holes that the Blue Jays had in their lineup. This was a club that finished with absolutely putrid run production in 2024, and Santander's addition should only help. However, they still needed a little more pitching reinforcements. It's an aging starting rotation, and it's a group that is reaching free agency soon. Chris Bassett will be a free agent at the end of the season. Jose Barrios has a chance to opt out. The point is, there's a couple of players on the pitching staff who are reaching free agency. So what did Toronto do? They signed Max Scherzer to a 1-year, $15 million deal, and they hope Scherzer will stabilize the rotation. They don't need Scherzer to pitch to his Hall of Fame and Cy Young caliber, but they just need him to be a constant, steadying veteran presence in the back, hopefully move Yariel Rodriguez to the bullpen and the swing role that he is better accustomed to be in. So, Blue Jays seem to be better, and we could only hope that they finish with more than the 74 wins they had last season and the putrid offensive production that they posted. So there we are. This is where we are. Spring training is just beginning. This is going to be a very interesting season in the American League East. We'll follow every bit of that season here on the American League East Recap. We'll talk about it as spring training gets underway, as the players report, as they start to get out there, get their reps. We will be talking about all of it here. And until we see you again, this has been American League East Recap.